What's up, traders? Matt from the Trade Brigade here doing a technical analysis on our FANGMAN stocks. That, of course, stands for Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Nvidia. On the left-hand side, as always, we've got the daily time frame, and on the right-hand side, the 30-minute intraday time frame. First one up on the chopping block for F in FANGMAN is Facebook, of course, and what you'll notice on the daily is that we do have an inside bar, so that puts into play the outside bar setup. It's either long up and over the highs or short down and out underneath the lows of the outside container bar, if you'd like to call it that. So in Facebook, what would I favor? Probably based on the reversal of trend here, some sort of consolidation for a flag, and then look for the break of 216, let's call it 217 for round number's sake, to get into this larger trading range to the upside. That, to me, is the more promising setup here inside of Facebook. I would continue to want to see this one hold on the deepest of pullbacks, even if it does break the outside container bar low, this 203.50. As long as it's above there, I mean, to me, this is starting to form a bull flag. Could I be biased? Maybe. I do have a long position in Facebook, as you guys know, so I am looking for upside personally, but if it takes out 203, I would seriously reevaluate this position, noting that this could be a failed reversal here from the daily. Let's take a look at the 30-minute intraday time frame. What else can we learn about the price action today? Fairly nasty off the open and then just getting some consolidation into the afternoon, especially noting that the broad marketplace did not really see a whole lot of sell-side activity or important sell-side activity. It was more of just consolidation type efforts. I'm not overly concerned with the activity that formed on today's 30-minute session here in Facebook. To be quite frank, if we take this high out, I think we're kind of off to do something like this. We start to put in an ascending triangle, and again, that sets up the break of this 217 to get into this larger daily range to the upside. Could I be a little bit optimistic because of the bullish position I hold right now? Maybe a little bit, but I am looking at this through, I would say, a fairly realistic light. You can see that this trend line is kind of in place. If we can clear this high, again, there's nothing really stopping us until we can get to that 217. If we take out the lows, then as we know, we're looking for 203 on the short term, right? So that's what we've got on our 30-minute time frame. Not a whole lot more to glean from that chart. Next up, we have AAPL for Apple, of course. What's going on in this one? A nice close near the resistance trend line. Kind of iffy on the intraday. If you were watching, let's just jump right to the 30-minute time frame. At first, we got there. Oops, it was actually this bar right here, the 930 bar. We fell shy, and then that's kind of where the market started to take a turn and get more consolidation type efforts. Ramped, and then Jerome Powell threw us for a loop. I mean, this one was all over the place today, so I would actually constitute this back and forth activity here as consolidation in and of itself, and it might not appear to be obvious on the daily time frame because it's just a solid-bodied green candle, but the sellers had their opportunity, right? That's where the sellers could have stepped in, taken advantage of that momentum, and kept prices driving lower. It didn't happen. We actually put in a very nuanced higher low and then closed closer to the highs instead of closer to the lows. I'm not saying that Apple has to immediately break this resistance trend line, but I would be on the lookout for it to go sideways through it via time and then continue on its merry way instead of looking for the more aggressive pullback at this point in time, just based on what we just discussed with the failure of follow through from the sellers on that afternoon sell, I suppose, when Jerome Powell kind of said, hey, inflation might be a bigger deal than we think, right? So that's kind of my thought process on Apple, and the fact that we did get this back and forth already means that we are consolidating. We're in a period of consolidation with relatively equal lows. We'll see if we resist and continue to do this sideways activity. Again, breaking that resistance trend line on the daily sideways through time would not strike me as, the end of the world. I don't think that we're in store for a deeper pullback, but if we do crack this 162.50, as you know from the weekly watch list video over on the main channel, if we take out the fibs from high to low, our next level to really watch out for is this 160.50, all right? So that would be the 38.2 retracement. Underneath that, we have 157, which is also the 61.8. That really needs to be the line in the sand if we are going to form some sort of higher low. And again, based on the activity that we're seeing here so far, I don't really think it's likely that we get some sort of activity that looks like this unless there's some sort of unforeseen news event that hits the news headlines over, the next day or two, all right? So that's Apple in a nutshell. Next up, we have N for NFLX, Netflix, FAN. What do we have here? Zooming in a little bit more like Facebook, right? You can see the break of the resistance trend line. We have an inside day, 2-day balance is in play. So simply long up and over the highs for the rotation to this prior lower high right here, or short under the lows for just a simple back test of this 362.34. I wouldn't really push my luck too much further than that, noting what we again saw on today's session, really just consolidation instead of a stronger effort from the sellers to, significantly push prices lower. So how is this one going to pan out from the 30-minute perspective? I would just keep an eye on this level right here, 370 roughly, 369.50. As long as we're above that, bullish consolidation inside of the 2-day range. I would opt to look for the 2-day high breakout, doing something like this into that 397 level. If we take it out, again, just short-term scalps, very, very short-term. You're looking for day trades only into that support portion right here at 362.34, coming from the prior high that kind of needs to hold for a higher low if this trend is going to firmly reverse back to the upside, all right? So that's Netflix in a nutshell. Use this 370, 369.50 as your major level to watch into tomorrow's session, over and under. Next up, FANGGOOGL. There we go. Spelling's an issue today. Let's jump into the chart here on the daily. What do we have? Let's pop our levels back on because we do have levels prepared. There we go. What do we have? So clearly up at these highs, this is turning into a double bottom. We're clear of the neckline, a day of consolidation. Again, it doesn't strike me as being overly bullish or bearish, fairly neutral. Liquidation break and then a recovery into the close here. So nothing abundantly clear that the sellers are really trying to put up a strong fight. If they were, they would have consolidated weak at the lows and closed it down here instead of letting the buyers ramp it back higher towards the closing bell today. So Google, again, just watching for any consolidation here, eventually a break of this level. Look left. I'd probably watch out for that 2-day high right here. Kind of sneaky, but that's your first overhead target. Let's go ahead and grab that level with a price tool. There we go. That's at 27.60. And again, that's likely going to be a day trade for you longer term guys. I would watch for this. Again, that's your first lower high from that overall move from earnings, right? So that level is going to be around 28.50. That's what we've got for upside. To the downside, if we do end up cracking that neckline, that is slightly concerning. The only possibility we have for a higher low from here, at least, would be at that 26.1750. That would be the next level to watch out for. But again, based on the intraday activity on the 30-minute, it doesn't strike me that the sellers are really trying to take a firm grasp here. FANGM for MSFT. Microsoft is up next. Who do we have and what do we have rather on Microsoft? Nice day today on Microsoft. An inside bar, but a better looking hammer. We're also respecting that 300 pivot point. So I do think that this is in a very playable place as of right now. We're above the resistance trend line still. The pullback did hold it. If we can crack 300, I would look for this fake breakout high first. It's going to be at 302.87, so roughly a $3 range to be trading for. Do be aware of the 200 SMA looming just overhead, kind of in between there. But ultimately, I do think that this is probably the important resistance to be paying attention to. After that, things really open up from the 303 up to 311. From the 30-minute perspective, just like everything else we've been discussing, it would strike me that we did see a little bit of liquidation break, but each time the buyers were able to respond, aka the sellers were fairly weak, right? This liquidation break aspect that we keep talking about is just poor location longs closing out of their positions as they don't get follow through. Anyone who chased in the afternoon on Friday and didn't get paid immediately on this morning's open, those are the people who sell, and you get these quick, snappy reactions to the downside. It's not longer term sellers who are looking to, start building a huge short position. Could that be the case? Yeah, there's always the slight possibility. There's the possibility for anything always in the marketplace, but this type of activity, at least in my 8+ years of trading, would not be indicative of a stronger seller. So in Microsoft, I like the consolidation up here at the highs. A break of 300 is getting attractive for day trades into 303. Then the range opens up. If it wants to crack down underneath this area of support, roughly 295.50, that's fine. I would just watch for the higher low off of potentially 290, right? For something that then does this, that's good. We have low, higher low, preserving our new daily uptrend here in Microsoft. A is for Amazon. AMZN, not XZ, there we go. And what do we have on the Amazon chart? A nice day of consolidation at the highs, a nice question mark doji. We did set a higher high and a higher low. Bullish information, but of course it's going to make the breakout trade a little bit more difficult to pan out here. One thing I would point out, which is a fairly bullish indication, is the hold on this lower wick of 31.76. The reason I say that is because if we go to the weekly time frame chart, and I've been talking about this level and area for a while now, it was support, then resistant right here. We're getting price acceptance above that, which strikes me as a slightly more bullish indication as opposed to bearish. If it was going to be more bearish and a quick fake break to the upside, I do imagine we would have rejected and found more price acceptance on today's session underneath that 31.76. So enough of that on the weekly. Let's go back down to the daily. In terms of upside levels, we are still looking for that 200 SMA and horizontal level from prior flush right here. Also the lower high that was set, that's 330, too many threes in a row. 3335, so 3335 and the 200 SMA. To the downside, of course, we do want to continue to see that 31.76 hold, but if it doesn't, from the 30-minute time frame, you can see Prior resistance here, prior resistance there should hold and come in as support. That's that pivot at 3,100 that we had been discussing for a while as well. You can really see it on the daily right there. That's the downside. But again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's true. The activity we saw on today's session really just strikes me as liquidation break and consolidation as opposed to a stronger seller entering the marketplace in Amazon. Last but not least, FANGMAN is for NVDA, Nvidia. What's going on here? Monster move, and it's actually holding up much better than I would have thought. This to me was the prime candidate for sort of a deeper pullback, noting how much further it had rallied compared to everything else. But I guess the relative strength monster just cannot be stopped here. Just like inside of Amazon, we do have the higher high and higher low. We are respecting the consolidation low from the Friday session, which I do think is interesting. And we also have that very slightly nuanced higher low into the afternoon. I don't want to sound like the broken record, but you know the drill. This doesn't really seem like a stronger seller, just some liquidation break activity, some poor location longs, closing out of positions, no new shorts. If this is going to crack, it's going to come from this 258, 259-ish breakdown. Notice that we have really thin structure on the way up. That's really where the deeper pullback will come from. So keep an eye. If you're only going to have one level on your Nvidia chart that needs to hold in the short term, it's got to be 259, roughly 258.75. Put that level on your chart. If we're above, we're in ideal consolidation zone, building out a bull flag. Look for follow through to the upside. If it cracks, thin structure, your target should be 244 to the downside. That's going to wrap up our FANGMAN stocks. If you enjoyed today's video or learned anything new, let me know in the comments section or by giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget our main channel is linked in the description. And all of that being said, I wish you a green trading week.